It says in verse 18, "Behold my servant whom I have chosen." He is the appointed one. This fits into why Jesus has told the multitudes not to tell anybody. And it says the reason he told them, warned them not to make him known and not to tell anybody about the miracles, it's all wrapped up in the fact that Jesus didn't want any fame. He wasn't out for popularity. He wasn't trying to build a force to override the Pharisees. He was just wanting to help them. He just had one single thing in his mind, and that is he wanted to help them. And that characteristic is all wrapped up in this fact that he is the appointed one. "Behold my servant whom I have chosen." If you've been paying attention, you know that as we've been studying Hebrews in the Hebrews class on Sunday morning at 9, we've been over in Acts chapter 3, verse 18 and 19, walking through that on Sunday mornings. Now we've been also in this passage. All three of these studies, just amazes me, have all hammered this idea. All three passages, we didn't plan it that way, but all three passages just seem to hammer the idea of this being chosen. It's almost like God is trying to tell us something, folks. It's almost like he says, I know if we just had it in one service you wouldn't get it, so I'm going to do it in three of them. And he just hammers, just beats us to death with this idea that we have been chosen. Jesus has been chosen. You know that the word fulfilled, when we've discussed it in verse 17, he told them and warned them not to make him known, that it might be fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet. And the word fulfilled is the picture of a container and the content. And what he's saying is that the content of the life of Jesus fills up the container of the prophecy. So here's the prophecy, and this is what Isaiah prophesied, and now the life of Jesus completes that, fills it up, fills it out, and makes it complete. And that's a phenomenal idea. And I've tried to explain this to you before, but I don't think I've sufficiently done it. And I want to give it a shot again tonight. And that is the idea that, of course, what he's saying is not that Jesus looked back and read the prophecy of Isaiah and said, oh, that's how I'm supposed to act, and then went out and acted that way. That's not what's happening. That would have fulfilled it, but that's not what's happening. So here's the prophecy that Isaiah gave 600-700 years before Jesus was even born. And now Jesus is acting that out. And again, it isn't that he said that he went back and read the Isaiah prophecy and said, oh, now I'm going to act that way so that prophecy will be fulfilled. Because I have to, because that's what the prophecy said. That's not what's happening. And it's not that God way back here, although he is omniscient and could have, has looked forward and saw the way Jesus was going to act and said, oh, I'm going to write that into a prophecy. So God, foreseeing what Jesus was going to do, put that down in a prophecy. That's not it either. Neither one of those are the way it is. We on track? See, Jesus didn't read back and read the prophecy and say, oh, I'm going to act that way because the prophecy says so. Nor did God back here see the way Jesus was going to act and say, I'm going to write it into the prophecy. Neither one of those are true. What's going on is this. Oh, I want you to get this. What's going on is this. God had this phenomenal plan. Come on, this ought to be easy because we've talked about this. God has this phenomenal plan. God has this overwhelming dream. God is going someplace. It's big, folks. It is huge. One reason why you know it's huge is because your 80 years down here at the beginning of this is a little blurb compared to the rest of the plan. I mean, it's just a little blurb. It's a snap of the finger and so this is a huge plan that God has. I mean, it's a big plan. And in the middle of this plan, God looks and he sees that there is a void, there is a hole, there's a need. So God gets his measuring tape and he goes over and measures the hole. And then he goes and he builds a plug for the hole. So the very DNA of Jesus, the very fingerprints of Jesus, the very makeup of Jesus, everything about Jesus literally fulfills the dream that God has and what he wants to get done and where he's going. So Jesus is not an accident. Jesus isn't, oh, that's the way he is, I got to write that into the prophecy. No, 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 no. Jesus doesn't lean back and say, oh, so that's the way I'm supposed to act. I guess I'll act that way. Jesus doesn't even need to read the prophecy. He's going to act that way. Why? Because he is built to fulfill the dreams of God, and it's just natural in his system. He can't help himself. It's just the action of his being. It's the wake up of his being. He just thinks this way. This is the way he is. So when he turns to a multitude and says, hey, I healed you, don't worry about it, don't tell anybody either. That is just the natural flow of his DNA and his fingerprints. And Jesus was born out of the dreams of God. Now, we discussed this in the first messianic prophecy, that the God came along, the Trinity God came along and looked at the devil and said, the seed of the woman is going to step on your head, boy. And the plan was born. Oh, it was born before then, but it was announced. The plan was announced. And Jesus is the plan. So here's this phenomenal plan. What's the plan? Jesus is the plan. So the DNA, the fingerprints of Jesus are born out of the dreams of God. You got to get this. Dreams of God. So Jesus is not an accident. Jesus is not, oh my, didn't want that to happen. Now I got to fix that. And so now Jesus is born out of the dreams. It isn't Jesus and then he dreams. He has a dream and it's Jesus. Jesus is the fulfillment of the dreams and the passion of God. So the big plan is the person of Jesus. Then you get into what we talked about the Abraham thing. Well, who's Abraham? Well, he was born out of the dreams of God. Well, yeah, he was, just like Jesus. Well, not exactly like Jesus. Well, Jesus is the dream, and Abraham is born in the dream. So Abraham has his DNA. Why? Oh, he's got his fingerprints. Why? Oh, because he's planned in the plan. Here's the plan of Abraham. Here's the plan of Jesus, and Abraham's in the plan. And if you take away the plan, you don't have Abraham because there is no plan. So Abraham is appointed and chosen in Jesus. Here's Moses. Why would we talk about Moses? Who's Moses? Oh, the reason we talk about Moses is because he's a part of the big plan, which is Jesus. And you take away Jesus and Moses is insignificant and nobody wants to talk about it. So Moses, his fingerprints, Moses, his DNA, Moses, who he is, all spills out of and has significance because he's chosen in the choosing. Jesus is chosen, so you got a Moses. Jesus is chosen, so you got an Abraham. Jesus is chosen, so you got a Jeremiah. Jesus is chosen, so what was your name? So we got you. And if you're not in Jesus, who are you? What are you about? Well, I'm bored. Well, I can see why you would be. Well, I'm doing all sorts of things. Why are you doing that? Well, I'm trying to fulfill the need of my life. I know, because you're not in the plan, man. See, once you get outside of Jesus, then this all disappears. Because your appointment and your choosing is all found in this, the person of Jesus. And I'm telling you, in the person of Jesus you find, oh, my fingerprints matter. In the person of Jesus you got, oh, my DNA counts. I am individually made, shaped, different. My personality, my whole being, my whole makeup is all integrated together by a divine God because I spill out of his dreams. Why? Because he had this dream and then this dream within this dream. And you matter, but you only matter in Jesus. Step out of Jesus and I can't figure you out. Step out of Jesus and I don't have any advice for you at all. Step out of Jesus and I don't know what to do with you. Commit suicide. Step out of Jesus and there's no purpose. Step out of Jesus and there's no reasoning. Step out of Jesus, there's no control. Step out of Jesus and there's no plan. Step out of Jesus and it's meaningless. Step out of Jesus and you have no significance. Step out of Jesus. Get out of this and this ceases. Whew. That's beautiful, isn't it? But the whole point is, you matter. Why? Because he matters. And since he's chosen, so are you. You got to give your life to him. You got to get intimate with him, man. You got to find your connection with him. You got to embrace him. I'm not talking theology here. I'm not talking even coming to church, although we want you to do that. I'm talking about this intimacy. I'm talking about this oneness in the person of Jesus. He is appointed, so are you. Now, in this appointment thing, there's this adored thing, and we tried to talk about this a couple of weeks ago. But he says, my beloved, oh, I love it, my beloved. He's adored by the Father. My beloved. I tried to give you 3 ideas. You can't remember them, so I'm going to give them to you again. One is emphasis. One is emphasis. One is exclusive, and one is excess. One is emphasis. There's a contrast going on. Here's the Pharisees in verse 14. They're madder than hornets, man. They're all upset, and they've gotten together, and the word you remember is council. They put their heads together, got around an oak table, put their heads together, and they're just going at it, man. They are aggressive. They are plotting how they're going to kill him. It's not, are we going to kill him or are we not? It's how we're going to do it. So they're aggressive, and they're planning. We're going to get a shotgun, blow his stinking head off. They're just aggressive about this. Now, as you see the aggression in that, I want you to come over here and see a contrasting picture is the Father loves the Son. If you think this is aggressive, let me tell you, whoa, this is really aggressive. If you think they're hot, woo, you should see the Father's heart. If you think they're burning about this, woo, you should see how the Father burns about Jesus. And there's a contrast going on. If you think they're all upset, you should see how the Father's just bouncing up and down over the Son. And there is this overwhelming emphasis of, oh, he's my beloved. And I can't tell you how hot the Father is, how excited, how emotional, how what's the word? How he's just all wrapped up in. He can't think about anything else. His love for the Son is so aggressive and passionate. Whoo! I love that boy. It's the emphasis. Do you know it's exclusive? The Father only loves the Son. Now you say, wait a minute. For God so loved the world. That's bigger than Jesus. Yeah, it was the world. But it's interesting. When you come to the New Testament, every time the Father spoke, and when he spoke of his love, and we heard him, it was always to the Son. God loves the world. Yeah, I guess he does. But I never heard him say that. See, what I heard him say is, I heard him come down on a Mount of Transfiguration, and I heard him say, whoa, this is my boy. This is my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. I love this boy. See, I heard him say that. See, the only times I've heard God speak in the New Testament are all wrapped up in speaking about his love for the Son. And if you go by that in the New Testament, you find out then that the love of the Father is exclusively for the Son. Well, you say, that cuts me out. Oh, you didn't get it. You're in the Son. So if the Father loves the Son, oh, think of how he loves you. Think of how he loves you. Think of how his heart beats for you. If the Father gave Jesus fingerprints that nobody else had, think of what he did for you. If the Father has a dream for the Son that's, oh, phenomenal, think of the dream in which you fit. In fact, Jesus, and you remember this verse in John chapter 14, Jesus said this business about, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. With the same aggressive tendencies, the same way the Father feels about Jesus is exactly how Jesus feels about, whoa. Think of the tightness between the Father and Jesus. Oh. Think of what he wants with you. It's phenomenal. In fact, it is not only emphasized, it's not only exclusive, it's excessive. He says, I will put my Spirit upon him, which is what? It says, I just love him so much I can't leave him alone. I'm going to get all over him. Got this little dog. You've seen him. He's so cute. I take him out for a walk. People can't leave me alone. They can't leave him alone. All the kids run up. The adults stop. Oh, can I pet him? They just can't leave their hands off of him. They just can't leave him alone. My wife's that way about me. See, the Father says, I just love my boy so much. I just can't leave it. I'm going to pour my Spirit all over him. I'm just going to intertwine myself with him. I'm just going to fill his mind and fill it. Oh, think of if the Father's doing that for the Son. What's he doing for? Oh, he just can't leave you alone. He just can't leave you alone. I'm telling you, he can't leave you alone. I don't know why I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He just can't leave you alone. He just can't leave you alone. I don't understand when I do something wrong, why I feel bad about it. He just can't leave you alone. He just can't leave you alone. I don't understand when I go my own way, why that doesn't work out. He just can't leave you alone. He just can't leave you alone. He just can't leave you alone. I don't understand why he doesn't just wipe his hands on me and say, I've given you chance after chance after chance, and that's it. He just can't leave you alone. He just can't leave you alone, man. He just can't leave you alone. He just can't leave you alone. Now that brings us tonight to this approved idea. Behold, my servant, whom I have chosen, appointed, my beloved, he's adored, in whom my soul is well pleased. He's approved. I got so excited because there's two Greek words that can be translated pleased. And I'm not going to attempt to pronounce them because you don't care anyhow. But there's two Greek words that are translated in the Scriptures, pleased. Over on this side, we're going to put one of those Greek words. This Greek word over here is used 14 times. It's not our word. It's a different word. I'm going to put it right over here. It's used 14 times in the New Testament. The emphasis of the word is on the one who is trying to please someone else. In other words, here's an individual. They're looking at someone they hold in high esteem and say, oh, I want to please them. What do I have to do? What should I say? What kind of activities should I be involved in? How can I receive from this individual the pleasure they're pleasing? I want to be pleasing. And the emphasis is upon the person who wants to be pleasing to someone. An example of that is in Mark chapter 6. John the Baptist has been preaching, and Herod Antipas, he's the king over the territory where John the Baptist is. And John the Baptist has gotten all over him. He made the mistake of coming to church on one Sunday morning and John the Baptist was ranting and raving, and his hair was everywhere, and he was just having a big time. And he was running up and down his 100-foot pulpit on the banks of the Jordan River, and the ushers were standing in the back saying, "Oh, I hope John behaves himself today. The king is here." And lo and behold, the king is in his chariot right in the front row. And good night, John the Baptist. There he goes. Oh, just in the middle of his sermon, he just couldn't stand it anymore. He just kind of flipped out. And before you know it, John the Baptist had leaped across the Jordan River, gone right up into the chariot, put his finger right on the end of the nose of the king and said, "Hey, I'm talking to you, boy. You send that woman back. She's not your wife, she's your brother's wife. You send her back." And the king just wheeled his chariot and his horses, and off he went mad. And of course, that didn't set too well with his mistress. She was a little upset with John, so she had a plot. Herod had a big birthday party. All the dignitaries from all around were brought in. They lounged when they ate, which I think is a neat idea. Don't you think it'd be great to have couches in here? Instead of sitting, we'd lounge. Oh, never mind. So they were lounging, and they were about half tanked. And oh, Herod's mistress, she had a teenage daughter. She dressed her up just right and sent her out to dance. And the purpose was this word over here, that she would be pleasing. Everything she did in the dance, all that she was attempting to do was somehow, some way to please. And she did. And John the Baptist got his head cut off over that one. That's not our word. Our word is this one over here. This word over here now is this person here wants to please someone. Our word here is not someone wants to please someone, and it focuses on the one who wants to be pleasing. It's focused on this person here who is pleased with that person there. It has nothing to do with what they did. It has to do with what's inside this person here. The focus is on this person here. The focus is on what pleases them. The focus is on the character. The focus is on the inwardness. The focus is on the mind. The focus is on the spirit, the attitude. The focus is on the internalness of this person and what pleases them. See, this word over here, the focus is on, oh, that person there is trying to please this person. The focus over here is on this person who has a character and is pleased within and looks upon things from a pleasing perspective. Jesus, oh, the Father is pleased with Jesus. Well, Jesus hasn't done much up at this point. I know. I mean, he's done some miracles. That's true. But he hadn't died on a cross yet. Yeah, that's right. I mean, he hadn't redeemed the world. You're right on that. We haven't gone through a Garden of Gethsemane. That's right. We don't know whether he's going to be faithful or not at this point, do you? No, not at this point. Well, is he going to stand the test or not? We don't know. See, it isn't that the Father says, oh, I know you're going to die on the cross. You're going to fulfill my plan, and I'm pleased because you've accomplished everything I want. No. Jesus hasn't accomplished it all. So it isn't that the Father, Jesus, has pleased the Father. It's that the Father is pleased in Jesus, because it's within him. And the pleasing isn't because Jesus has accomplished it. The pleasing is within the Father because he is made up that way. That's the way he is inside. And the emphasis is on the Father and how he is, not on Jesus and what he does. You are pleasing to the Father. What did I do? I'll do it again so we'll really please him. It's not about what you do. It's about how the Father views you. See, this is so valuable. You got to get this. See, one of the big questions is, what's the intent of God towards my life? See, you got to figure that out. If God has this overwhelming plan for me, well, what's his intent for me? Is he mean? Is he nasty? Is he going to ruin me? Is he going to build me? Is he going to give me a mansion in the sky? What kind of a deal has he got going for me? What's his insides like towards me? See, you really got to figure that out. Because when you're in the shoes of Jesus and you're headed for a Garden of Gethsemane and you say, the Father loves me? Why am I in a Garden of Gethsemane? Sweating drops of blood here. Why am I going through a scourging and my back hurts like mad if the Father loves me? If I'm dying on a cross and I'm saying, whoa, Father, you love me? Well, this doesn't feel like it. I feel the love. I don't think so. See, to go through a Garden of Gethsemane and to hang on a cross, you got to know down in the depth of your soul that the Father's intent for you, that what he's like inside is, he loves you and you please him and it's okay. You got to know that. You got to know that. Well, if the Father loves me, why do I have cancer? If the Father loves me, why did I have 4 flat tires today? If the Father loves me, what's wrong with my home? If the Father loves me, why am I going through this? If the Father loves me, why did my wife die? Those are real questions, folks. See, you got to figure out what's going on in the Father. Well, I work like a dog trying to please him. That's not our word. Well, today I did everything I could do to please the Father, and I'm still hanging on a cross. You're missing this. That's not our word. See, our word is over here, and it's all about the Father and what's in him. And you've got to figure out what's in the Father. You've got to know what's deep in the Father. You've got to know what his heart is like so that when you come up against difficulties, why? And people are asking these questions all the time. If God is a loving God, why was there a tornado and all of those people? Why are there starving babies? And it isn't just the questions out there, it's the questions in here for our own individual lives. If God is he mad? What's going on inside of him? See, he's clearing that up in this passage. You know what's going on inside of God? He's pleased. He looks at you with intentions that are good. He doesn't have a mean bone in his body. That when you crawl down inside of God, when you slit him down the middle and you crawl down inside of God, you find out that the insides of God are always filled with this passionate, burning, overwhelming, intending the best and the good and the right for you. That he's never, ever, ever against you. Well, how am I going to find that out? You got to get to know him, man. You got to get intimate with him. Listen, you got to come on in and embrace him. You got to live with him every day. You got to go to bed with him. You got to get up in the morning with him. He's got to be your constant companion. Listen, this can't be just a Sunday night, a Sunday morning, or a Sunday night, or a Saturday night thing. This has got to be an intimacy with God where you live in his heart and you feel his pulse beat and you know what he's all about. And it doesn't matter what happens out here because you know the intent of God is always good and that really it is the truth. All things do work together for good to those that love God. Why? Because that's the way he is. And you please him because he is pleased inside. Jesus, Put your hands all over me. Take your Spirit, invade my flesh to the depth of my being. Permeate my heart and mind. And in the intimacy of your person, and in the bathing of your presence, may I feel and know your attitude. And your intent for me is always good, right, love. You have never, ever done one single mean thing to me. You have never, ever gotten mad at me. You have never withheld one good thing from my life. Here's the deal, Jesus. Whatever's in my life that's blockading the flow between you and me and the intimacy that could take place, I want it removed. I want it gone, man. Whatever has become so big in my life that it's overshadowed you, whatever has become number one in my life until you have been taken second and third place in my life, my ego, my pride, being right, whatever, God, has overshadowed you in my life so that I didn't know intimacy and know what you were really like, and the overwhelming love that you are, I didn't experience. I want you to remove whatever it is and bring me into the perfect intent of your heart for me. Our people right here, our people sitting right here tonight, envelop us in our hurt, in our pain, in our discouragement, in our distress, in our confusion, in our drama. Embrace us, oh God, and bring us into the plan where there's purpose and meaning and sense and direction, and we can know your love. Oh, heads are bowed. You're loved tonight. Do you hear the Father screaming, I love that boy. I love that girl. Could you get a glimpse of the significance of who you are? God doesn't have rules and expect you to act that way. God has created you special DNA, special fingerprints, special purpose within the plan. That's why you're to act that way. He's planted it within you, and His intent for you is always good. Oh, you got to get to know Him. Oh, would you kneel at His feet tonight? Would you throw away everything that distracts you from Him? Would you toss aside all of your rights and all of your petty little stuff? Would you get rid of all your junk? Would you just unload on Him tonight? Would you just take all your little stuff? Would you just take your psychological scars and all the past and all the stuff that's cluttered your life, and would you just dump it? Would you just dump it at His feet? And would you just let Him pull you out clean and new and fresh. In Jesus. You are loved in Jesus. There is great significance for you in Jesus. There is a phenomenal plan in Jesus. You matter so much in Jesus. Come on into Jesus, will you? Don't let anything stop you. Oh, I want to seek with me tonight.